First team injuries already piling up, QPR taking the lead for an own goal, and Preston North End equalising from a goal kick assist. Ladies and gentlemen, Championship football is finally back at Loftus Road, and there is already plenty to unpack. I'm Connor, aka Hoopsa. I talk all things QPR, and in this first match reaction of the season, I'll be covering all of the positives, the negatives, and everything we learned from new head coach Julian Stefan's first competitive match in charge of the R's. If you like what you see or hear, don't forget to hit like and subscribe or follow, and let's jump straight in. The biggest talking point ahead of QPR's season opener was whether a starting striker would be available, but when the club's pre-season medical update dropped on the eve of our return to W12, it became clear that there are also other positions proving cause for concern. Mickey Frey and Jake Clark-Salter, both not penciled in for a return to training until at least the first international break, were the least surprising names on this list, pipped only by Taylor Richards, who apparently sustained a hamstring injury after Cardiff. Paul Smith, absent for much of pre-season, was finally revealed to have been dealing with a minor groin problem that should be resolved in time for Watford away next weekend. The real deal breakers for Preston though were Jonathan Varane, who sustained a concussion against Brentford and would have to miss out in line with the FA's concussion protocol, and Jimmy Dunn, who was subbed off with a hip injury in the same game. Varane is expected to be back for Watford, but Dunn was due to undergo further scans this weekend, suggesting he could be out for some time, which is bloody typical after actually managing to keep hold of him this summer. All of these absences made it a bit of a mystery what team we'd be putting out for our season opener, and our new starting lineup graphics being shown in number order at the new earlier time of 1:45 only added to that puzzle as I attempted to decipher who was actually playing where. As increasingly suspected, Joe Walsh has officially dethroned Paul Nardi, and in front of him, Liam Morrison and Amadou Mabenge formed our first centre-back pairing of the new campaign. Right back was the hardest to work out ahead of kickoff. Was it Mabenge or Sam Field? Well, once they all turned out on the pitch, it was actually in fact Kieran Morgan. Escudina at left back was perhaps the biggest surprise in the backline though, with Ziad Lakesh yet another added to the injury heap between the time of the club's pre-season medical update and 3 o'clock Saturday kickoff. Moving into midfield, Nicholas Madsen and Sam Field made up our centre mid pairing with Elias Chair ahead of them in the 10, Karamoko Dembele out on the left, Kwame Poku out on the right, and Jan Seller starting up top for his first league appearance since the 7th of December 2024. As noted by Jack Supple, this all made for QPR's youngest starting 11 in a match since April 2018, with an average age of 23 years and 280 days. Now I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised by the first half of this match given our absences, and over the course of the first 45 minutes, Rangers were the more dominant side both in terms of possession and attacking efforts. It took us a little while to get going, and Preston's first blow 4 minutes in from a wide free Lewis Gibson header gave early worries of a similarly messy backline to Brentford. But to their credit, Morrison and most notably Mabenge comfortably dealt with pretty much every ball that came their way for the rest of the half, and I have to shout out Morgan too, who at just 19 very comfortably slotted into the backline in a position he's never played and did a good job. Soon enough, Rangers grew into this game. Chair provided our first spark on 7 minutes with his trademark cut inside from the left before sailing a perfect ball to the back post for a mass of bodies in the box, but Poku spurned his well-timed run with a poor connection. Dembele, a real potent threat during his time on the pitch and assisted by some early bombarding overlapping runs from Escudina, had his first shot from the left saved by Daniel Iverson a few minutes later, and Poku, who became increasingly exciting as the game progressed, had another effort blocked in the box. We were quiet in front of goal for the next 15 or so, and it was down to a couple of familiar gripes. While I'm happy to report that last season's incessant playing around the back was quicker, had more intent, and lasted for far shorter periods, we are still insistent on this ridiculous kickoff routine that Walsh does not look one bit comfortable being a part of. I know most teams do it these days, and the point is obviously to draw in the press, but it looks like we're playing hot potato when it's Walsh instigating it, and there were a handful of I can't bear to watch moments in the first half an hour alone. The 23-year-old didn't exactly help himself with the few occasions that he went long either, putting a ball straight into the Stambols stand from an early free kick and pointlessly lumping the ball up to Seller every so often. In general, I thought he looked a ball of nerves, so I hope that calms over the next few games, because otherwise we're going to see some costly mistakes. The other thing that hasn't changed just yet is our central midfield, and while Madsen and Field were inoffensive as a pair and we didn't exactly get run through like we did early last season, we still have no ability to play down the centre of the pitch. When we were in possession, Stefan had Field playing further forward as the 8, but it probably needed to be the other way round given Madsen's technical ability, because every time Field found himself in a good position, he got the ball stuck beneath his feet and hindered the move. Defensively, he still did everything we know he does best. He won the most duels, he made 5 clearances, including 1 off the line, and recovered the ball 6 times. But I can't imagine the Frenchman will be in a rush to play him in such an advanced role again, particularly with Varane hopefully soon back in the picture. It meant as ever that we were incredibly reliant on our wing play, which is, to be fair, a big part of Stefan's philosophy, and it was working well, but I can't help but think how much more a rounded team we would be if we had that progressive midfielder in the squad, and I really hope we finally resolve that before the window closes. Eventually, after a solid save of Thierry Small's shot from Walsh on 24 minutes, we got going again. Chair delivered another great ball at the far post on half an hour, this time to Dembele on the left, who headed narrowly over the crossbar, while Madsen shot way over it from outside the box a couple of minutes later. Escudina combined well with the Dane on 37 minutes for his own effort, 1-2ing from a throw-in before reeling off a shot from range, but ultimately putting it straight into the hands of the keeper. Chair then ambitiously tried his own luck from 40 yards out on 40 minutes, missing wide to the left, but thankfully 60 seconds later, Rangers would finally take the lead with own goal making an early push for top scorer following a prolific campaign last season. The lead came about from a failed Preston attack, Liam Morrison clearing a deflected ball well up the pitch and Seller attempting to hold it up in the centre circle. The ball spilled awkwardly from his touch as he waved for a foul, but Chair was quick to mop it up and work it out to Dembele on the left, who knocked the ball past Jordan Story, burst into the box, shielded the ball strongly and cut it across the 6-yard box, only for Ben Whiteman to turn it into his own net for us. It might not have been an Ars player to score, and there was a healthy dollop of luck to go with Dembele's graft, but just before the half-time break, we'll take those all day long. So, things were looking pretty good going into the second half, until 2 minutes in, when the away side immediately levelled from the aftermath of a QPR corner, one of 5 of which we were distinctly unavailable to threaten from without the homing device that is Jimmy Dunn's head. With Iverson catching Dembele's delivery with ease and all but one of our defenders in their box, the ex-Leicester keeper promptly pumped a goal kick upfield to Militin Osmajic. It caught a scrambling Escudina, Chair and Madsen completely off guard, leaving the Montenegro striker free to chip the ball delicately over Walsh in no man's land and into the back of the net. Now you have to give credit where it's due, it's a hell of a delivery and finish, but it should never ever happen, especially given they had created so very little until that point. It's just an amateur goal to concede and a criminal way to let a team as poor as that back into the game so quickly. This is the reality, I suppose, of such a young team. Does that goal happen with Dunn, Cook, Nardi, or someone like a Cole back on the pitch? I'm not so sure. With Walsh, it's obviously not solely his fault given he was one-on-one, but that's not the first time he's been chipped since coming into the team at the start of pre-season. The only thing more frustrating than conceding the goal was our response to it, or more accurately, the lack of it. This felt very deja vu from early last season to me, starting our games well, taking the lead, conceding a soft equaliser, and then struggling to get back into it even against a poor team. Preston naturally looked well up for it for the next 10 minutes or so, and in this half they dominated the chances, Michael Smith trying to take the lead with a blocked and then wide header over the next 5 minutes, and Osmajic skying his next effort shortly after. The reality is we just never quite looked like restoring our lead, even with more moments of brilliance from Dembele and Poku, who continued to combine exceptionally until the latter left the pitch with an injury on 67 minutes. Dembele had gone the closest to our second 10 minutes earlier with a powerful shot from the left, nearly the cherry on top of some fantastic build-up from the pair, but Iverson reacted well, and when Poku went down, the excitement of our new arrivals started to fade away. It's a shame because he was looking like exactly what we need on that right-hand side, and he looked so dangerous cutting across into the centre of the pitch. I sincerely hope it was just cramp, but having missed a significant portion of last season with a hamstring injury, and the curse we currently seem to have over us, you can't help but fear the worst. That led to Stefan's first subs, a triple change of Ryan Colley for Poku, Keely Adamson for Escudina, and Roman Burrell for Jan Seller, each of which had varying effects. Colley looked to me like a player that had missed much of pre-season, and he could do with a good run out against Plymouth on Tuesday to help shake those cobwebs off. Adamson, already asked to play on the opposite flank to his natural position, slotted in quite comfortably, and could have made himself a hero on a couple of occasions with multiple balls falling to him on the edge of the area. Burrell endeared himself the most instantly though, and despite not having a shot at goal, he did everything within 2 minutes of joining the pitch that Seller hadn't in the previous 70, hassling defenders, pressing, dropping deep to link up play, and igniting bursts of pace across the pitch. I'm loath to take aim at the Slovenian so quickly, and his performance wasn't quite as anonymous as we've seen previously, but he doesn't have any of those qualities that Roman demonstrated in such a small period, and he was never ready for the multiple balls that found their way into the box in the first half, and just doesn't cause the backline any problems by being there. Some may argue that he played his part in the goal, but watching it back, I'm not sure that was all too intentional. Either way, let's focus on the positive. Without having an effort at goal, I thought Burrell already showcased some of the attributes that the club have brought him in for, and I'm excited to see him get more minutes in a Rangers shirt. Stefan then used his remaining 2 subs 10 minutes later, Harvey Vale replacing an also potentially injured Dembele, and Steve Cook coming in to shore up the backline in place of Morgan, with Mbengue moving to right back. As the clock ticked down though, even with 7 minutes of added time, it became clearer and clearer that this one was going to end a draw. So, it's a cliche, but this really was a game of 2 halves. In the first, Stefan's attacking football ideology was clear, there were some excellent moves, and Dembele, Chair and Poku as a free behind the striker is a really exciting prospect. The loss of composure, rhythm and intent in the second was a concern, especially against a team as poor as this, and in that sense I think we got handed a pretty generous opening fixture. But I have to say, I did leave Loftus Road feeling pretty encouraged by what I saw in that opening period, particularly from all of the new additions who, unlike the start of last season, all slotted in pretty seamlessly. If that continues, we hopefully won't have to wait half a season this time for the side to gel. There is still of course a naivety and a soft underbelly to this team, but if we can bring in some more experience by the end of the summer, get the other starters up to full fitness and hopefully not lose any more in the process, I'm really intrigued to see where Stefan can take this squad. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. What did you think of this first performance? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you enjoyed this match reaction, please consider hitting like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you again tomorrow for my Plymouth Argyle Carabao Cup preview. Cheers!